Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here. I'm in delicious Paris with a very special guest, Trinlay. Hello.
Hello.
I'm excited to do this interview. This was unexpected and the universe kind of brought us together. I love it because you are quite something. I don't even know actually how to describe you apart from being this reincarnation of a big Tibetan master. Can we say that? You're an old soul, reincarnated. I want to have the full story because this is quite something, what you went through and what you remember and the training that you got and the memories. I'm excited to speak about life, about death, about reincarnation. I have so many questions. We're going to try to narrow this in the short video, but thank you for taking the time to do this video. I know it's very different than the monasteries, huh?
Yes, very different, of course. Well, it's, as you say, a long story, and I don't know really how to make it all very short, but I would say that, I guess that my life has been, from a normal Western perspective, quite unconventional, as my parents were, my father's French, my mother's American, and they were among the first Westerners to really start practicing Buddhism and be interested in Buddhism. And they met with Buddhist masters from Tibet, in Nepal, and India. This was in the 70s. And after I was born, they brought me to India. And a very important Buddhist teacher from India, who was originally from Tibet, his name was the Karmapa. And this was the 16th Karmapa. He's the head of a very old Buddhist order. And he chose me to be the successor of a teacher who had passed away. So in the Tibetan tradition, they call that a Tulku, which means basically the emanation of that deceased master. And so I was brought up, with the support of my parents and my own also inclination and willingness to do it.
At a very young age, you were kind of called. I read you were really you were attracted to that. You just wanted to be in that space, and there was something about you that just wanted to meditate at a young age and learn more. I mean, this is quite special. And at the same time, they recognize you. So how did that work out? Did you first make this step and your parents brought you there, and then after a while they said, this guy is a reincarnation? Or how does it work? Because we hear of the Dalai Lama's story. Yeah. This is a bit different.
No, it's, the Dalai Lamas are also what they call Tulkus. It's the same thing. They are recognized as the emanation, or you can call it also reincarnation of their predecessor. So it's the same. It's basically the same thing. I don't know, it just all came together kind of naturally. I don't really remember that much of everything, but I was very young. I was, 2 years old. So I was very, very small. I could barely say a few words. And then, right away I didn't start living in a monastery or anything, of course. But as I grew older, I showed more and more interest. And I really told my parents that this is really what I want to do. And I insisted very much on living with these Tibetan Buddhist masters and practicing and studying with them. And then I was, I think, very privileged in many ways to have met very inspiring people and have learned a great deal from them.
Yeah. So you were drawn to them. You were drawn to something. Did you had some memories, or just you were kind of going with the flow?
I don't today have any particular specific memories. I have very few memories even of that time, without speaking of a past life or anything. I don't remember anything of that sort. But, independently from all of that, the Buddhist tradition is extremely rich and has a lot to give. And I have received a lot from it. And I'm very grateful to my parents and to my teachers to have enabled me to follow this unusual path, if I may say.
Who is the soul then? Because your soul is could be, can be, is this has lived those several lives. What is that soul's a mission or wanting to make happen on earth or live?
Well, I guess, yeah. I was told that my predecessor, who had passed away, actually he passed away quite young, and he said that he would manifest again in the West. And I believe that people who had known him recognized in me his kind of emanation, and it was also the Karmapa in his capacity, in his clairvoyance, in his capacity, also in his authority as the head of the Buddhist Gamsang order. He appointed me and chose me.
How old is this tradition of spotting out those reincarnated masters?
Well, in Buddhism, Buddhism does not hold a physicalist point of view regarding the mind. That is, that from a Buddhist perspective, the mind is not a byproduct of matter, and so the mind at death will continue, so to speak. So that is considered from a Buddhist perspective a reality. So this, everyone, you, me, any other sentient being, animals, dogs and cats and insects even, when they pass away, they are drawn to take rebirth. This is the view in Buddhism in general. Now, when it comes to the spiritual teachers, Tulkus, they are considered to be somewhat advanced or evolved, you may say, on the spiritual path towards awakening, and who have willingly made the choice through compassion for other sentient beings to benefit them. They, although they are somehow free from taking rebirth, they nonetheless make that choice to take rebirth through compassion for other beings.
Are the Tulkus, so I guess the Tulkus have, can we say dharma, but not too much karma?
I don't know, maybe you could use that, but anyway, they are, let's say that they have also karma, okay. But if not, they would not be able to manifest in the world.
Okay. Yeah, no, tell us about that distinction. It's interesting.
Well,
because from my understanding, in Buddhism, we try to reach enlightenment, right? And we do have a karma.
Well, the goal of Buddhist practice is to put an end to suffering. So suffering is actually the actual word in Sanskrit is dukkha, and it has a larger spectrum than just suffering. In English, when you say suffering, it's either physical pain or mental unsatisfaction or psychological difficulties. You can call suffering, but here it has to do with the let's say the life as we know it has a characteristic that is unsatisfying, because everything is impermanent, and also our minds are troubled inside ourselves. Our mind does not know itself well, and has confusion, holds confusion within itself, and so our different emotions arise, like desire, hatred, the sense of selfishness and ego, and these are actually the sources of suffering, sources of unsatisfaction. And somehow what we usually pursue is, in order to have satisfaction or find happiness, we rely on these emotions. We rely on desire, we rely on hatred, and we think that these are ways or attitudes that will bring us that, but they are deceiving. The more we cultivate desire, the more we cultivate hatred, selfishness, the more dissatisfied we are, and the more we find unhappiness. So the message of the Buddha is a way of finding true peace, and through
permanent,
perpetual peace is something we can find by working with our mind. We try to find peace generally in the having. Having a lot of things, having a good situation, a good life, and so on. But that does not really bring satisfaction. And it's also ephemeral. There's also deception in that. So for the Buddha, happiness can be found within, if you understand your mind and you can cultivate the good qualities in your mind and see the aspects in the mind that are deceiving and that lead to dissatisfaction. So that is the actual teaching of the Buddha, is the way of finding true peace within ourselves.
But there is the karma aspect. So that means there's some lessons that were here, or some particular aspects that maybe we're called to liberate, or to be with.
The word karma actually simply means literally action. But the idea here is that what we do has repercussion in what we become. So it's the idea that there is a causal relationship between our physical, verbal, and mental actions and what we become. Now, there are a number of different traditions which speak about karma, but their understanding and their explanation of karma is very different. In Buddhism, karma has to do with thought. So all karma starts with thought, within our mind. So it's our intention, our thoughts that determine our physical, verbal actions that will have a consequence, that will determine who we are, what we become. For example, if you cultivate this emotion of anger, if anger arises, we can feel right away that one is set in discomfort. Anger is dissatisfaction by essence. And the more you hold on to it, the more you cultivate it, the more you feel dissatisfied. And everything you do through that afflictive emotion, verbal speech that comes out is hurtful. Physical actions are hurtful to others and end up harming ourselves and others. It is just pure suffering, pure pain in its strongest form. So karma is to show that between that emotion, which is finally, it's a very small, it's nothing, it's just a feeling.
It's intangible, but it has physical translations.
It has physical translations. That's the karma. So when it starts, it's just a small feeling. But the more you cultivate it, more then it has a consequence in how you express yourselves, and you undertake a chain of action that has consequences and brings about all kinds of negative things for you. That is the negative side of hatred and all actions that come from it. Violence, harsh speech, all of those always harms us, will never bring a benefit to us.
What do you recommend then when a person is going through those difficult times and anger comes out? And what can be some practices or some way to not let go, or to heal? Or what are your words to feel peace again? Because I know meditation is probably a practice, but is there a step before that even?
Well, I think there's a step before that, especially, concretely speaking with action. I mean, we can imagine you're meditating, you're all calm and peace, but it's not always easy to, sit and meditate, and you have to live your life, and you're confronted to many different situations, and people can be upsetting in many ways. So there are a number of teachings the Buddha gave us and that the Buddhist tradition explains for us to use as methods to overcome hatred and anger. So I think first and foremost is to understand the nature of hatred and the nature of violence. That by its nature it is harmful for the person who engages in it. You think you're getting rid of what is harming you, but doing that you're actually harming more yourself. Because inside your mind, your mind is agitated, you are in pain, and you're holding on to that pain. So often hatred itself is nourished by certain thoughts and circumstances, but it's mainly nourished by how we react to the circumstances. So when, for example, somebody says something unpleasant to oneself, one feels, he has said something unpleasant to myself. This is very bad. And I kind of cultivate being upset about it. And then I get angry. So you see, it's not just the circumstance, it's also how I react to the circumstance. So we can start by working on our reaction towards that negative circumstance. So when somebody says something harshful, for example, hurtful words are all just conventional. And they're just air. They are not painful in themselves. It is the importance we give to them that makes them painful. And the more you give importance to those words and more you hold on to it, the more you'll feel upset. If you just think, oh, it's words. For example, when the stone falls on the ground and it makes an unpleasant sound, you don't get angry. When somebody says hurtful things, why should you get angry? Getting angry will just hurt yourself even more. So if you take the harm, you give it an importance, then it really hurts you. If you don't take it and you leave it where it is, it will not hurt you. Words are like an arrow, but through how the harmful words, you can imagine they're like an arrow, but your reaction can change them into a flower. They just sound nothing.
Is that compassion? Is that...
That's not even yet compassion. That's just not taking into great importance what other people are saying, for example, with words. But then
it could help if we see the person as having a difficult time and, to not react.
Yes, that's regarding that. Of course, compassion is something very important. And if you have compassion, you will not get angry, for example. But the root of compassion is love, affection. Yeah. Without affection, you cannot have compassion. So, for example, imagine a mother and her child. The child is screaming and yelling and saying many hurtful things to her mother, but the mother will never get angry with that because she knows her child is in pain and she has compassion for the pain he is going through, and all the harmful words the child might say will only prompt her to be more affectionate. So that is...
See more flowers.
Yes, if you want. And so that is through the power of her affection and compassion for the child. So of course, if you have affection and compassion, then you will never ever get angry towards anyone. But
there's previous steps. Yeah.
Previous steps. You don't necessarily naturally fall or have, let's say, compassion for other sentient beings, have love or compassion for other sentient beings. So this is something we need to cultivate. And so this is also, there's a lot of teachings about that, considering how others are like ourselves, sentient beings, that they, fear pain and want happiness just as much as ourselves. Having that type of understanding will help us not be harmful and more considerate to other sentient beings.
There seem some situations that we can be in that are not adapted or that feel hurtful. Is that okay in Buddhism or in your practice to kind of not run away, but to just kind of change our environment for it to be a friendly environment, a nurturing environment? Or do we need to really go through all those different hurtful, maybe painful even relationships to grow and evolve and feel enlightened?
Of course, if there is a solution, Buddhism is not saying that you must suffer. Often you have certain religions that consider that if you are in pain and you're suffering, you're closer to God, or that you must mortify yourself to purify yourself. Buddhism does not hold that type of view. Pain is not a way to salvation. However, there are circumstances where pain is unavoidable. You see, so there are ways of making that less painful by our attitude towards that. You see, so if there is a solution to a problem, then undertake that solution. But it must be a compassionate, ethical solution. Often we all try to engage in a solution, but that solution ends up trying to hurt other people because we are listening to our anger or hatred. But we must understand that those are our true enemies, not the harm that comes from the other person.
which space or which attitude or which how can we be to make how does it feel to be making the right decision, I guess, or to know that it's the right time?
Right time for what?
For making maybe a decision to change situations. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a friendship. Maybe it's something that just doesn't work. And which is the ideal place? I mean, I guess you meditate for hours and then maybe the solution comes, or is there the divine timing? What I'm interested, is how does this all work in the end? Because it's quite mind-boggling.
I think you have to be very pragmatic. Look at the situation clearly, whatever your situation is, and if you are unhappy with the situation, be it your job, your relationship, or whatever, and then consider your life overall, what you want, what you expect for your life, what you can do for others, what are the expectations of others or not. You have to assess the whole situation. So it's not necessarily about closing yourself away from the situation and not thinking about it and just meditating. It's on the contrary, thinking carefully about the situation, assessing everything, and seeing what is the best, the most positive action you can take, which is both beneficial to others and beneficial for yourself. So in Buddhism, we give a very big importance to ethics. And in essence, Buddhist ethics is to not harm other sentient beings, to not hurt other sentient beings. So what can we do that is most beneficial for ourselves and also not harmful for others? First step. And also maybe on top of not harming others, we can also benefit them. But the first step, if you can't avoid harming them, you can't think about benefiting them. So you have to first learn how to not harm, and then on that basis you can try to benefit, make others also happy.
How would you define enlightenment or awakening? Are these actually the two same thing, or the awakening is an access to enlightenment?
The word enlightenment and awakening are interchangeably used to speak of the state of Buddha, which is the actual Sanskrit term. Buddha means to be awakened. And what does it mean actually? It means to be awakened from confusion. Mm-hmm. So it's a state of mind where there's no more confusion, no more illusions, where you are no longer misleading yourself in any way. Mm-hmm. So from a Buddhist perspective, it is a very, very high goal and not immediately achievable. It's something that we can tend towards progressively. And the essence of awakening is wisdom. Without wisdom, and here wisdom is understood in a very specific way, that is true, genuine understanding of reality, having no confusion about reality. So there's a very unbiased, precise knowledge of reality is understood here by what we mean wisdom. And also it is somewhat different from what we would call generally in our English language the word wisdom or knowledge, which is kind of a idea of a concept or opinion about reality. Here is not, does not pertain to the domain of concepts or opinions. It's something very particular, and it is cultivated on the base of a stable mind, stable and clear mind. That is a great power of concentration. You can stay focused without being distracted for many hours, many days, without feeling it being an effort. Such type of qualities must be gained through training. And also, that meditation also implies that you have ethics. Ethics meaning that you do not in your physical, verbal, and mental behavior harm others, and that you have vigilance. And
how can you take responsibility for other people's reaction, though?
You're not to take responsibility towards other people's actions. You're not responsible of their actions.
You could be hurt when you just said really nothing.
Well, you cannot keep them from hurting themselves. Mm-hmm. but you can also, by your behavior, inspire them. If you are kind, it is, our state of minds are contagious, in a good sense and also in the bad sense. So if you have anger and you express it, other people will feel anger and hatred, and they will hurt. You can, like that, contaminate other people with negativity. But you can also influence them positively. So if you show kindness, compassion, they also will feel kindness, compassion. And that is the power of their own mind. They have that capacity. Even very hateful people have that capacity. So that's a natural quality of our mind. And that's why in Buddhism we say that awakening is not something that we must search from somewhere else, or a God or somebody must give us. It is a natural quality of our mind, a power of our mind. Our mind has the power to be awakened naturally. So the whole practice of Buddhism is just to try to enhance that natural quality, to actualize that.
So God would be Buddha.
Well,
often when you say Buddha, but the word God is rarely pronounced. I've noticed in Buddhism.
Buddhism, first of all, is not
that's a tricky question.
Per se, it's not a theistic tradition. That means in Buddhism, we do not believe in a creator God that has created the world, and therefore awakening, which we can call the salvation for Buddhists, does not depend on the satisfaction of a greater being who will grant us to us. So,
nor to a force or a source,
nor to a force or source. The only source of awakening is within each of us, within our mind. So it's a very unusual kind of religion, one can say, in that.
Some people associate it to a philosophy, but it's a religion. It has its restrictions, it has its practices, it has its limitations, or not? Because religion sometimes is, associated to that rigid kind of way of speaking, and what is not is actually, the question.
I understand. Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting question. Is Buddhism a religion or a philosophy, or what is it exactly? It all depends how you define religion and how you define philosophy exactly. I mean, in many ways, Buddhism is more, I would say, a philosophy, because one of the things that have distinguished in the West philosophy from religion is that philosophy is based on reason, and religion is just based on the heart, on what you feel. As the French philosopher Pascal said, "Le cœur a ses raisons que la raison ne connaît pas." The heart or the feelings has its reasons that reason ignores. So somehow in the West there's this distinction. What religion says, the dogma of religion, does not need to be proven by reason. It is valid in itself, either you believe it or you don't. And philosophy is the domain of reason, while you're trying to explain and so forth. Buddhism is in great contrast with this perspective, because in Buddhism, every point of the teachings of the Buddha are considered to be accurate, because they are explainable, and they are based also in reason. Like the Buddha himself said, that scholars and his disciples should examine his teachings as they would examine some gold to see if that gold is pure or not, by cutting it and burning it and so forth. And he said that they should not accept his teachings as true by respect for him. So it's not, in this case, faith-based. It's
blindly
blind faith-based. It's a reason and examination-based. So this is a very different perspective. So in that sense, of course, Buddhism is not a religion. But, one of the things that defines a religion is also that we seek a salvation. People engage in a religious practice because they fear for death, and they want to be assured that at the moment of their death that they will be reborn in heaven or with God, or that they want to elevate themselves. And the reason for religions is to elevate ourselves in one way or another. So they seek a salvation. In this case, since Buddhist practitioners seek awakening, there is a soteriology in Buddhism, a pursuit of a salvation seen in awakening. In that case, then you could say, yes, Buddhism is also a religion. It all depends exactly how you define it.
I heard, and you're going to tell me if this is true or not, but part of the practices in Buddhism is to actually get the soul ready for this transition and the death, the moment of death. Is that part of the practices or not?
Well, in Buddhism, there's a lot that is said regarding death, of course, in Buddhist teachings, but it's also mainly about life, how to live our life in a way that is beneficial towards ourselves, towards others, how to find well-being and happiness in this life, but also in the next life. Meaning here that how to die well, that means how to... death is something that is unavoidable, that one will be confronted towards, and there are ways of being able to die in a way that one may use that to our own benefit. I think maybe one of the key is, in life we are confronted with many things. We're confronted with illness, we're confronted with enemies, we're confronted with death, we're confronted with also happiness and joy. And how to relate to all of these things in a way which each of these will help us grow and bring us towards more awakening. So that's what Buddhism teaches us, how to use death to your greater profit, how to use life to your greater profit.
Last little word of wisdom, or maybe a little message or something to say in these particular turbulent times, maybe, to anyone watching around the world?
So I think that, I'm, of course, as a Buddhist, I'm speaking from a Buddhist perspective, but I think independently from, being a Buddhist or not, I think that one of the most important things is kindness. And being kind, not only do we bring it's the greatest gift one can give others, but it is also the greatest gift you can give yourself. It is something that will benefit you. And this is regardless if you believe in anything or not. It's something concrete. So if there's any message I could give, of course we are confronted in the news with wars, with sicknesses around the world, with pollution, with changing climate, with so many different things. But I feel and I believe that the solution to all of that is within each of us. And one of the reasons why one has wars and one has all these problems is due to greed, hatred. And these are just thoughts, as I said earlier, within our mind. And the thing that can counterbalance that is also within our mind, which is kindness, affection, love. And so I would like to invite everyone to cultivate those qualities in a disinterested way and have consideration for all other sentient and living beings who, like us, wish for happiness, wish not to suffer, and to have consideration for them. And I think if we do that, there are solutions to all of this, and we can make this world a better place. And, by being born as a human being, in our modern times, we have received so much. And what are we going to do with everything we received? How can we show some gratitude? And I think if we can have this kindness and compassion and try to leave when we die this place, this world, a better place, then our lives will have been truly meaningful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Trinlay. It was a delicious interview. Thank you, my co-creators, beautiful co-creators, for watching this video and sharing it. We send you many, many blessings and love and light and sun from delicious Paris. Bye-bye.